Will the Oklahoma City Thunder repeat? We went to NBA 2K26 to find out the answer by simulating a full season and learn some very important lessons on how important the regular season will end up being.
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, media member and beat writer for Thunder on SI, Rylan Stiles. Follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at LOThunderPod. Email the show, LOThunderPod@gmail.com. On today's show, we're diving into the NBA 2K26 season simulation. The new game came out this weekend. What do they think will happen in the NBA's regular season? When you look at the year ahead, I think it's going to be very fun basketball. I think that there'll be a lot of unpredictability about what this season has in store. And the 2K simulation did kind of cement that to me. We went through one season. Here were the parameters: no trades, no injuries. Just how will this season go if everyone plays it straight up? And let's just see how good every team is. The Thunder, of course, come into the season with a bit of a leg up because they have such a talented roster, and that talented roster has made its way to NBA 2K, where you're gonna see SGA as a 98 overall, tied with Jokic for the best in the NBA. J-Dub is 90 overall, Chet 88, Isaiah Hartenstein 82, Lou Dort 81, Alex Caruso 80, Kaysen 79, Joe 78, Wiggins 77, Kenrich 76, J-Will 75, Mitchell 73, Oos 72, Topic 72, Sorber is 71, Carlson is 70, and Barnheiser is 69. Very nice for those rookies. And when you look at this 2K roster, Thunder, of course, best team in the game. And the scale is 0 to 99. The Thunder have, of course, the best team top to bottom. So you would figure that you would see them have great success in this simulation. Not quite what happened, at least in the regular season. But we did get to see the trade offers. We just didn't have anyone accept trades. And there was a few to pick out from that were pretty interesting. Walker Kessler to OKC, and the Thunder give up Cason Wallace in a second. No. Clint Capella and a 2027 first to OKC, and Houston gets Cason Wallace in a second. No. OKC got John Collins, Kobe Brown, and the Clippers got Lou and J-Will. No. New Orleans tried to send DeJounte Murray for Isaiah Hartenstein. The Spurs tried to send Fox for iHart and Mitchell. And the Trailblazers tried to send Jeremy Grant and a first for iHart. Those were the trade offers that I thought you might get a little amusement out of for this new games engine when it comes to trying to craft fake trades. I do think that this new game will be appealing to OKC fans. I mean, Shai's on the cover. He's in the My Career intro. The Thunder roster, like we mentioned, is great. They do have the new championship tabs on the jerseys, which the Thunder will get in real life this year as a team that's now won a championship. On the back of the jersey, above the nameplate, there's going to be a gold tab there with the number 1 in it, since they've won one championship. Shai's signature shoes are in the game. J-Dub's celebrations in the game. Another piece of this I think is very fun if you're into My Career or if you're into My NBA, the dynamic championship banners, which will keep track of every year you win a title and actually have a physical banner in the arena. Hasn't really happened in any sports games before. This one in NBA 2K, very fun. But the season went as followed. OKC gets out to a pretty rough start, all things considered. 11-7 to start the year. And then they went on a 5-1 streak and then caught fire in the turn of the calendar year. At the end of the season, you saw Jokic win MVP, Cooper Flagg win Rookie of the Year. Russell Westbrook is 6th man of the year with the Kings. Wembanyama, Defensive Player of the Year. Buzelis, Most Improved Player. John Morant, Clutch Player, which is fascinating considering where Memphis finished. Ty Lue, Coach of the Year. You're about to see why. SGA was the only Thunder player on any All-NBA team. He joined the first team with Jokic, Giannis, Doncic, and Trae Young. Chet, J-Dub, and Lou were all defense second team. And then Topic and Sorber were also all rookie second team. Now, the standings for this, I thought were interesting and kind of telling. Uh, the Clippers were number one, 62-20. The Timberwolves were 59-23. The Mavericks were 57-25 at number three. Houston 53-29, and then Oklahoma City fifth, 52-30. So even though OKC was able to make up some ground, that early season stumble was the difference in having home court, was the difference in having a top seed. And I think that it just goes to show the 2K sim engine favors some archetypes of teams. For example, like the Mavericks. The Mavericks are going to be so good in these simulations because whenever you sim these games, they do prioritize the front court and with what they can do on the game with rebounding and defense, and that those teams typically will finish higher. But, you know, the bigger picture here is I expect the Thunder to be the number one overall seed. This is not about the Thunder being fifth, that we didn't learn anything there. It's kind of laughable that they were fifth, but you just can't afford, and this goes for every team in the West, you just can't afford any streaks that are negative because that will quickly plummet you down this list. You're going to see Denver at 7 in the play-in tournament behind Golden State. The Spurs were at 8, and then somehow, get this, the Suns and Kings were in the top 10. That means that the Lakers, the Trailblazers, the Pelicans, the Grizzlies, and the Jazz missed out of the postseason entirely. Jazz, not surprising, but to see Memphis 29-53 and to see the Lakers miss out is shocking. Now, none of this I don't think will happen in this order, but that's what 2K had for our one and only season sim, and then we'll get to the playoffs here in a second. The East was more realistic, which I found to be funny. The top three, top three, Knicks, Hawks, Cavs. Perfect. I mean, that's just kind of the top three that you imagine in the Eastern Conference. But then you go Detroit, Indiana, Chicago, Boston, Milwaukee, Orlando, all the way at 9 is kind of the only miss that this sim had for the Eastern Conference. And then Miami, Toronto, Philadelphia, Charlotte, Brooklyn, and Washington at 11 and 71. Now, I'm a big Wizards fan this season. I think that they're going to, perhaps not make the postseason, but I think they're going to be better than 11 and 71 or whatever it is. So I do not see that happening. The Mavericks did win the NBA Cup championship, if you're into that sort of thing. And I just think that it's interesting to see these things play out because of how competitive the regular season should be in the Western Conference and how it played out perfectly almost in the Eastern Conference. As far as video games go, where the sim engine will always be kind of wacky, the fact that the Eastern Conference was fairly realistic to what we're going to prognosticate here in a couple of weeks for the upcoming season is indicative of just how bad the Eastern Conference is. The disparity between these two conferences compared to the Nuggets of a highly rated team, they couldn't even make it to the top 6 and be safe from that play-in tournament. And there's only a few games that separate the play-in versus the playoffs. We'll talk about who won the NBA Finals. Did the Thunder go back-to-back? What are the accolades for SGA? And more on today's show. But first, I want to say right now, but our good friends over at Monarch Money, go check out Monarch Money today because most people can't even name all of their financial accounts. So they don't even know what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, investments. Whenever you don't have the full picture, you end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives, so you can cut out all of the stress and just have an organized financial situation with Monarch Money. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you, and it's able to see your accounts in minutes and see clear data visuals and smart categorization of your spending. That way you feel like you're in total control of your money because you are, without even touching a spreadsheet. I love the fact that in those clear visuals of what you're spending, they also have what you're spending in, say, subscription services, and you can easily manage how many of those do you really need to keep. Is there a better way to manage those subscriptions to make sure that you're not leaving money on the table? They're going to help you out there. Do not let the financial opportunities slip through the crack. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com to browse for half off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA, half off your first year at monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Thank you so much for making us your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're here for you talking Thunder basketball. If you're new to the show, you've noticed that August, a bit of a slower month, 3 days a week minimum. But now that we're past Labor Day, we're back every single day. At the end of the month, we'll be back at Media Day and training camp. So we're back every single day. We have a fun week coming up, including tomorrow's show with Brandon Rabar, where we're going to power rank all 30 teams in the NBA. That way you can see where we actually think these teams are going to go compared to where NBA 2K thought these teams were going to go. What's interesting is after you get to the playoffs, you end up with the Clippers Nuggets again in the first round, a 1-8 matchup. You get Houston OKC 4-5. You get Dallas Golden State 3-6. And then you get the Timberwolves and Spurs 2-7. In the East, you get the Knicks and the Bucks. You get the Pistons and the Pacers. You get the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Bulls. And you have the Hawks and the Celtics. First round for the West. Let's go through that. Clippers, Denver. Clippers in 7. So another 7-game series between those two teams. And Denver does not make it out of the first round, which I would find to be the most shocking thing in basketball if Denver does not make it out of the first round. And if Denver is in the play-in, that'd be even more shocking. Houston, OKC. The Thunder actually sweep Houston in the first round, which, considering how the simulation played out in the regular season, getting a 5 to sweep the 4 was just interesting from their sim engine, but the Thunder do advance to the second round. Dallas in 6 over Golden State. Timberwolves handle the Spurs in 5 games. New York handles the Bucks in 5 games. The Pacers actually sweep Detroit, and the Cavaliers have to go to 7 games over the Bulls, but then the Hawks sweep the Celtics. In the second round, it's Thunder Clippers, the 1 versus the 5. It's Minnesota Dallas, and you get New York, and you get Indiana, and you get Atlanta, and you get Cleveland. OKC in 6 over the Clippers. So OKC's back in the Western Conference Finals, and they've officially made it further than any other reigning champ over the last 8 years. Dallas is in 7 over Minnesota. At this time, of course, Kyrie is back, and they pull off the upset over Minnesota. New York beats Indiana in 7 games, which is crazy to think that the Pacers not only make the playoffs in such high standing, win a series convincingly, and then take Indiana to 7 games with no Halliburton. The Hawks and Cleveland sweeps Atlanta. So that means the conference finals are set. You have OKC heading to Dallas, the 3-5, and you have New York and Cleveland. So 3 of the 4 teams at the end of this big mess end up being teams that you're going to see projected to make the conference finals this season. Dallas being the lone surprise. Dallas as the 3 is shocking. Dallas getting to the playoffs is not, though. I do think that Dallas will be a playoff team. I think that their defense will be able to win them some games long enough until Kyrie comes back, hopefully for them around the All-Star break-ish. And then once Kyrie's back, if they do get hot with Kyrie and Kyrie is back to normal, you could see them win a series or maybe 2, but I don't think that that's very likely, even though it could happen. But OKC wins a Game 7 on the road in Dallas. Shea is West Finals MVP for the 2nd straight season, and Cleveland beats New York in 6 games. Donovan Mitchell, the Eastern Conference Finals MVP. So then you have the NBA Finals stage set. It's Cleveland, it's OKC, it's the Thunder going on the road with Cleveland. It's the Thunder trying to repeat as champions. It's the contrasting or kind of similar styles of Mobley and Allen against Hartenstein and Chet. It's Mitchell and Shea. You've got Garland and JW. You've got all these storylines, and this was two of the most fun regular season games from an Oklahoma City perspective a year ago, which was interesting that they were 2 of the most fun games because they didn't have their full complement of players in those matchups. But OKC ends up winning the finals in 6 games. SGA is the NBA Finals MVP. The Thunder do go back to back, and you saw SGA in that finals, according to 2K, averages 30 points, 3 boards, 7 assists, 2 steals, and shot 59, 26, 95 on the shooting splits. 59% from the floor in the NBA Finals averaging 30 points. That's impressive. That would be a remarkable season. I think that the playoffs played out more normally than the regular season ended up playing out. But it's OKC, Cleveland, and the Thunder win it back to back. The retirements, they say that Chris Paul will retire, LeBron will retire, Kyle Lowry will retire, Al Horford, Mike Conley, DeAndre Jordan, Brook Lopez, Batum, Kevin Love, Jeff Green, Eric Gordon, DeMar DeRozan, Paul George, Draymond Green, and the second player and the only other player to wear 35 in Thunder history, PJ Dozier, also retires. The MVPs, the Hall of Famers that they have from that retiree class is Chris Paul, LeBron, and Paul George into the Hall of Fame. So that's kind of the 2K season sim. I would be stunned if OKC finishes 5th in the West. Honestly, I'd be surprised if they finished below 1. I'd be stunned if they finished below 3 in the West. I think that they're going to be the 1 seed in the West again for the 3rd straight season, but they fall all the way to 5 in this simulation, and they end up getting the NBA championship regardless, having to go on the road every single series and still winning the title going back to back as the first repeat winner since those Golden State Warriors did it. You know, does this mean a whole lot? No, it doesn't. But just thinking about the East versus the West is what really turned my gears to make this into a show. Is just, could the Clippers put it all together and have a great regular season? I think by their standards and considering the lack of Kawhi last year, they had a really successful regular season, and now they're a much deeper team and a more put together team. So it'd be a little shocking just because of the perception of, hey, this is a old team. Old teams load manage. The regular season's not important to old teams, but the Clippers having a great regular season and that kind of shuffling the deck here for the rest of the West is something to think about. But I think that the biggest part is when you go back through and you look at the calendar by calendar page of the West teams, much more volatility, much more like bad streaks followed up by great streaks. And then you kind of lose that ground throughout because on any given night, these teams are capable of beating one another compared to the East, which had horrendous teams. Also in the East, did you catch that? Philadelphia at 12. And again, injuries not a part of it. Trade's not a part of it. And they still think Philadelphia is going to be bad, 30-52. You know me, I cannot quit my Sixers. I love the Sixers. Every single year that we've predicted the season, which is now since May of 2020, we've predicted the Sixers to be top 3 in the East. I have a feeling I'm going to give them home court again. I just can't quit Philadelphia, man. I look at their roster and I see everything is there for them. But the fact that even in a world in which you don't have to care about injuries, they still plummet. A bit scary for this year. I think one of the big things that 2K couldn't figure out about Orlando, by the way, as like the one East outlier, is the fact that Orlando's historically low 3-point shooting in real life. I mean, if you look at last year, it would have been one of the worst 3-point shooting seasons ever in the modern era. They haven't caught up with what you expect to happen this season. What you expect Desmond Bane's addition offensively will open up. He's not a high enough rated player in the video game for that to really trickle down to the rest of the roster. I think that they got really penalized for not having a juggernaut front court in 2K terms and not having a great 3-point shooting team around them to where they ended up losing games that in real life they're not going to lose and that their defense is going to be able to help them win games. Now, I tried to take this into the offseason just to see it play out a little bit, but 2K is still way behind the 8 ball. I think that this game is actually one of the better 2Ks that they put out recently. They still don't understand how to make franchise work, and it is tough. The NBA has so many different loopholes and mechanisms and aprons and hard caps, and they have so many different ways for an offseason to play out that for a video game, it's a little bit too tough for them to handle it all. But I had to stop the offseason right at the NBA draft lottery, which I do think is on 2K. I mean, I'll catch you a lot of slack, 2K, for the salary cap stuff, for the second apron stuff. But the draft lottery, you can't just plug in an algorithm that says, hey, the Thunder can't get the number 1 overall pick because these picks are top 4 protected from Philadelphia. the Thunder technically in 2K terms end up with the number 1 pick, 23 pick, and 30 pick. That just cannot happen. They cannot get the 1 pick from Philadelphia because that Philly pick is top 4 protected. So yeah, technically AJ Depans ends up on the Thunder, but there's no point to talk about the offseason that unfolded because of how bad it was. Like the Hawks declined to sign Trae Young, and they just declined his option. He was a unrestricted free agent, and he went somewhere else. Like that stuff, they just can't get a grasp on. So I tried it just because I thought maybe that could present some interesting show fodder as well, just given how many decisions OKC has to make this summer. But they can't make it work properly again, even from the draft lottery standpoint. So there's no real point to do that. We'll springboard into those conversations with your mailbag questions coming up. But first, I want to say right now, our good friends over at FanDuel, go check out FanDuel today because the NFL season is almost here, a couple of days away from the NFL season. FanDuel is making sure that you're ready for kickoff with this cannot miss offer. Right now, new customers bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So whenever you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app, visit FanDuel.com, and get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your bet, your first $5 bet. You're going to be able to get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app if your first $5 bet wins and you're a new customer. Look, I love the NFL. I love football. I think that it's great. Perhaps some of you only into basketball. Well, they still have plenty to do on the NBA tab. You can take a gander at the opening night line where the Thunder are favored by 6.5 points against Houston. You can also, hey, if you think the Thunder will win the finals again, the Thunder plus 210 to go back and repeat as champions, the best odds to win the title. You can go check that out today at FanDuel.com. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Thank you so much for making us your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're here for you talking Thunder basketball. We do have some questions to wrap up today's show. Whenever you look at this question from Funky Sooner, I see this as a 3-year audition for AJay Mitchell and Nikola Topic as to who will be traded or offered a long-term deal. I know that you have AJ this season, but 2 years from now, what then? I think that Topic just comes with natural reservations. And it's not even his fault. Just like I remind you that you can go back and listen to any show we talked about Josh Giddey. It was not Josh Giddey's fault that he wasn't a fit in OKC, because the things that he was asked to do in Oklahoma City, he just couldn't do. Right? So it's like, it's like Topic, for example. To expand his role with the Thunder, to scale his role to starting level, and to be highly impactful in the playoffs whenever the starters play more minutes, he's going to have to be a better off-ball player. He's going to have to shoot the ball better. He's going to have to be a better defender. And those aren't his strengths. Now, the reason that you're reserved and not out on Topic to me is because his touch is better of a starting point than Giddey's starting point was as a touch shooter, as around the rim presence, and as just a jump shooter. So he's above Giddey there. I also think he's above Giddey in his playmaking still mattering off the ball. Like Giddey gets a lot of praise for being a good playmaker, and he is, but he's an excellent playmaker on the ball. He is off the ball a average playmaker in the sense of whenever you reduce him to an off-ball role, defenders, of course, sag off of him. It gives him less of an opportunity to create advantages for other players. And he cannot throw players open. He can make the next read. With Topic, when he's off the ball more, I think that he'll be able to utilize that playmaking as a connector more than Giddey could. So those are two big pluses for him. But I do think that Josh Giddey was a better defender, all things considered, right? When Giddey competed defensively, when he locked in on that end of the floor with his size and his frame, he was able to handle himself as a low man in this system. The problem with Giddey's defense, though, was he wasn't always locked in. He wasn't always giving 100% effort on that end of the floor. And with Topic, you've got to see where he fits in, because I don't think that he'll withstand against wings and fours to the degree that Giddey did. But can he be someone who does not get picked on over and over and over again in the pick and roll. Can the Thunder flank him with defenders where you're not allowed to do that because the Thunder are so good at navigating screens to not force a switch? That's another question to develop here. So there's just a lot of reasons of pause for Topic where you just want to see what happens. You want to see how it grows. And if you're placing a bet on who's going to be better at the end of these 3 years, to me, you're balancing the high upside of Topic versus the provenness of an AJay Mitchell. Like Mitchell can't get to the heights that Topic can get to. He just can't. Like he just cannot get to the ceiling that Topic is. The reality is a lot of players don't get to their ceiling, especially in a destination that's so crowded and competitive like Oklahoma City. And so it's like, how realistic is it for Topic to hit his ceiling whenever he's playing next to Shea and J-Dub? Probably not high, to be frank with you. His best chance to do it will be as a secondary playmaker off the bench, which with AJay, yeah, he doesn't have that tantalizing ceiling, but he can play off the ball better. He can defend better. He can shoot better. And his playmaking gap is wide, and it will be wide for the foreseeable future on the ball. But off of the ball, again, that changes the degrees of which you can be an excellent playmaker. But Topic does have very tantalizing skill sets. And if you made me to select right now, who would you want to develop more? You'd obviously take the mystery box of what Topic can be long term. But I will go to AJay for this season, of course. Like I've said many times, I think by the end of this season, AJay will be a player who's a top 8 player on this playoff rotation. That's how much I'm banking on AJay Mitchell this year. But with Topic long term, if it hits, if the 3 gets to a respectable level, if the defense is hideable, which it should be, let's be honest here. Like you've built a roster with all NBA level defenders at nearly every position. You should be able to make up for one weak link. You just should. I mean, Mark is a defensive guru, genius coach. Cam Woods is back on the staff as Dixon goes and coaches the Blue. Like you should be an excellent defensive team to be able to hide a guy like Topic, because you've seen around the league they hide poor defenders all the time, and you can't just exploit them every single possession. So I would want to see how both of them fare, and I don't think it's an either or thing, because I think that AJay Mitchell's versatility and low cost is going to shield him in a way from these conversations. Because the fact of the matter is, I love AJay Mitchell, and I just want to know a whole rant about how he's going to be top 8 in their playoff rotation. You can't break the bank for a guy like Mitchell if you're another team, because in the world of the second apron, in the world of the restrictions, you just can't afford to give him a massive deal to where he's always going to be on a cheap, relatively speaking, contract. And I don't think it's a pick between one or the other in the sense of like who to offer the long-term deal to. Now, who holds the most trade value in 2 years from now? I think it'll still be Topic. Just like Josh Giddey had a horrific end to that Dallas series where he got benched and they just had to give up on him to try to win the series. And yet he still held the trade value of, he got you back Alex Caruso, which was a massive reason why you won the championship. And you're putting this on a 2-year timeline. Topic is 19 years old. In 2 years, he'll barely be old enough to buy a Diet Miller. Like he's still going to hold a ton of trade value. So it depends on which way you slice this whole thing. Topic, of course, has a high ceiling. You've got to, put him in the right spot. At Funky Sooner says, again, looks like a good QB trade for Tennessee and a good QB start for OU. Your thoughts? A little football corner here. Tennessee Vols looking pretty good in the season opener. The defense got a little lax in the second half for Tennessee, but ultimately did enough to win the game. Joey Aguilar looks worlds better than Nico Imalama-Levia. And Nico, tough sledding at UCLA. Who could have ever predicted that? Clearly not his father. So I love the trade for Tennessee. I'm excited about the Vols moving forward. And I think that John Mateer, Moneyline Mateer, can really sling it. I cannot wait to see OU play Michigan this week. And you're going to get a better example of that. But I think the only concern for OU is their offensive line. Like the fact that they could not just blow Illinois State off the ball repeatedly, regardless of who was out, regardless of the lack of continuity. anyone who wears the interlocking OU should be able to dominate up front physically Illinois State. And the fact that they couldn't, bit of a concern leading into Michigan, massive concern leading into SEC play. But if you found the way to make that work somehow, like let's say that they magically get some guys back from injury, get some continuity there. If their offensive line problems get to an average level, like as if Topic's 3 gets to an average level, then their team is stout. Like I love their healthy receiver room. Like I think that Burks being back is huge. Love their running back room. I don't know why Ott didn't play a lot in week 1. And then I think that their defense is great. I think that their defense can really, really, really be great this season. So I think that everyone, Tennessee fans, OU fans, should be very, very excited for this upcoming season. Of course, OU has more pressing matters this week than Tennessee does, with Michigan coming to town. First college game day will be in Norman post the Lee Corso era. Is Sorber's injury going to keep him out for longer than expected? And, I mean, we have no reason to believe that right now. Smithy Nub asked that question. We have no reason to believe that right now. Every sign points to, training camp and preseason being a go for him. We'll learn more at media day. We'll learn more as we get closer to the season. But as of right now, I have no reason to believe that this will be any sort of ailment for Schwarber. We'll get to some more questions, and we'll save some of them for the last part of the week, of course. And you can also ask more anytime you want to on YouTube and on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. This one comes from Yay Thunder Yay. If you could trade Joe for a vet minimum in a first round pick down the road, would you do that? I love Joe, but he's simply going to be getting passed up for players like AJ, Wallace, and Topic. To me, it's not even about who's passing him up. It's about Isaiah Joe's archetype. And I fully believe that you'll see a different Joe this season, but I also will admit I could be wrong on that. I think that another year of Joe progressing, where he took a step forward a year ago of not just being a solely stationary catch and shoot shooter, but another year of continuity with iHeart, being a movement shooter, coming off the HOs with him, relocating as a shooter off the ball. If Joe can do that again this year and build on that, then his volume increases from 3, the spacing increases for the Thunder's operation, and the success increases for the Thunder as a unit. If I'm wrong, and that doesn't happen with Isaiah Joe this season, then you do have to look at other options to fill that void, because you cannot consistently shoot as bad as they shot last season in the playoffs and expect to win. You just can't. So I'm still in on Joe. I think that you've seen him get to the point where defensively he can be out there in the postseason. It just comes down to, if you can't get him to a volume 3-point shooter that has success in the playoffs, then his role is not being filled properly, because that's his whole job. And so the volume to me is a big deal. And in the postseason, the stationary catch and shoot threes get taken away really easily. And you're going to have to be a better relocator. You're going to have to be a better off-ball 3-point shooter coming off of the HOs and scrambling around the court and improvising in space. So I think he'll do it. I think that you saw the signs of it last year. He talked about last year how difficult it was to change that archetype about himself, and how just different it is to play off of a hub like iHeart. But now you get another year under your belt. And you kind of see the pictures and you progress from here. And let's not forget, that was these guys' second playoff run. And they went to 2 7-game series. They won the whole thing. They should have more confidence than ever right now that they're going to be able to pull this off, and that they're good enough. And with that confidence breeds comfortability. With that comfortability breeds production. And I think that it'll happen for Joe this year. But if it doesn't, if I'm wrong on that, then you have to have the conversations about who can you get in here that can actually shoot and provide that boost. So it'll be fun to monitor that all season long. This was a fun podcast. Tomorrow, we're back with Brandon Rabar, power ranking the entire NBA. We also have Derek Parker lined up for this week and so much more. Again, we're back Monday through Friday now, post Labor Day, from now to the end of the season. So make sure that you tune in. We also have a Western Conference squad show coming up. That'll be a lot of fun to get the gang back together across Locked In NBA. So thank you so much for making us your first listen every single morning. We're here for you, talking to the basketball. For your second listen, go check out Locked In NBA and see what they're saying about the national NBA topics. But until next time, be good and be good to one another.